All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first session of the day. So this session is a combination of real-time rendering and game project. And Chris will do the intro about game project, but real-time rendering, the class, is where the students work with Unreal Engine and implement animation, whether it be cutscenes for a game or an animated short, using Unreal Engine as kind of the glue that connects it all together. And then you're about to see some of those works, and some of that will be combined with game projects. And
so Game Project is our course where students learn the blueprinting system in the Unreal Engine to get an idea of how interactivity in games is built. And they do that through building a sort of AAA industry style game project that they will share with you all today. All right. And the
anomalies.
Oh wait, this lives here. This mic lives here.
So, hello everybody, my name is Leah Elliott. I was the leader of restoration for Game Project, and I worked on 3D modeling, lighting, and level design.
Hi, I'm Madalena Chaveri, and I am the co-leader of Game Project and the leader of real-time rendering. I worked on concept art, blueprinting, 2D animation, and management between the two teams.
I'm Quinton Jones. I worked on the concept art, and I was an animator.
I'm Madeline Vermillion, and I worked on 2D art and level design.
My name's Alexander Hepner, and I worked on the blueprinting.
I'm Isaiah Carter, and I worked on 3D modeling and 2D art.
My name is Logan Horvath, and I worked on 3D modeling and animation.
My name is Cole Owens. I worked on level design and RTR.
I'm Abigail Bennett, and I did story, blueprinting, and animation.
And we are missing 2 members from our group, Morgan and Destiny. They were both on the RTR team of the development process. Yeah, sorry for the pause. Like I said, we're missing a couple members. So The Restoration is a first-person horror survival game that takes place from a grandchild's point of view. While mainly focusing on surviving monsters and finding VHS tapes, the game tests the player's morals as they learn more about their grandparents' past. Our monsters and mechanics take inspiration from Welcome to the Game by Reflect Studios, mainly through our monsters, which try to break in through the windows and the front door.
When creating the concepts, we focus on making sure the designs of the monsters match the environment and capture the variety of experiments made on them. Since the monsters are mutated humans, we wanted to keep those elements in the designs.
In our second iteration of the game's concept art, we took our initial sketches and transformed them into character sheets to prepare them for the modeling stage. Our biggest focus for this stage was finalizing the design of our final boss, the Anomaly, which is meant to represent illness taking over the body. Therefore, we gave them green skin, exposed bones, and rotting flesh.
Similarly to the Anomaly's final design, we made sure to incorporate elements of physical distress into the other two monsters as well, such as exposed wounds and embedded needles.
When working on the storyline, we knew we wanted to work with real-time rendering, so we planned with them to figure out how exactly the animations would expand upon the story of the game. We wanted to make sure the animations could stand on their own on top of adding to the overall game, so we chose to incorporate their animations as VHS tapes into the game as lore. The other portion we worked on for story was writing the intro letter that explains to the player why they are there at their grandparents' house, and that is the prompt of the beginning of the game.
I'm the one behind the 3D modeling of Half Human. Using the concept art made by Madeline, I created this model and also has some creative freedom with the textures.
I'm the one behind the Doorboy and Anomaly models. I wanted to focus on making them as close to the concept art as possible, while also adding my own spin on it. For example, Doorboy's mouth and the Anomaly's head being more of a deformed face instead of a skull. As for their animations, for the monsters, I wanted to keep them simple but unsettling with simple movements.
I was tasked with creating the interior and exterior of the grandparents' house. When creating the house, we wanted the exterior of the house to feel older, so we went with wooden assets. All of the assets were free-to-use assets found on the fab, and we wanted the interior of the house to feel kind of like your grandparents' house.
I was put in charge of designing the interior basement level, which is the laboratory. To create contrast with the unassuming look of the prior levels, we decided on a more high-tech industrial kind of appearance for the assets in the lab. I designed the space with a wide open main room and several long winding hallways to contribute to feelings of unease and vulnerability for the player. The asset packs used here were also free from the Fab Marketplace.
So when doing the lighting, I took inspiration from sunsets and mood lighting to create a very dynamic scene that would be more memorable for the player. For interior scenes, we wanted to create that same high contrast light. So in the lab, we chose red alarm lights to create tension, and in the house, we used both warm and cool lights to build a sense of familiarity for the player.
In terms of blueprinting, there's a lot of focus on timing and sound cues. Two of the monsters work on timers to attack the player after their timer goes down. And when they're in their attack stage, there will be a sound cue to let the player know that the monster is about to attack them. From there, they can move to the location in the house where they have to fend off the monster and do the required tasks to fend them away. There's also another monster that has a lot of focus on cameras, and the player will have to watch the cameras to manage where they're going to make sure they can time the doors to close them and fend them off as well.
The following slides will showcase the real-time rendering segment of production.
When creating the storyboards, we wanted the VHS tapes to show the backstory of the grandparents to give the player insights of their past and how they became the Anomaly. In shot one, it shows how the two victims became Doorboy and Half Human from the grandparents' experiments through Doorboy's point of view.
So I'll be speaking for Destiny since she's not here. Using the script notes given to us by Madalena, they were able to use our imagination and hit all of the beats for each cutscene. For the second scene, they added a scene of Grandpa and Grandma comforting each other after her diagnosis and the blueprints of the clinic to show it coming to life.
Doorboy and Half Human's human designs are meant to look like simple, innocent civilians. In contrast to this, the grandparents have more complex designs, which creates a power imbalance. Our main character was designed to be androgynous, so anyone can be represented by the player. Rolling back to storyboards, the third and final VHS tape showcases how the grandparents turn into the final boss, the Anomaly. After the player watches all 3 tapes, they have to decide whether they should live out their final year as is or find a cure despite everything they've learned.
My background is in game design rather than animation, so it was a really great learning experience to do a full animation using Blender with a 2D more traditional art style. We did this using grease pencil to hand draw all of the frames and all of the passes. Our main focus of passes 1 and 2 were to get the placement blocks out and then cleaning them up with some additional details.
In our final 2 passes, we focused on getting in our flat coloring to match the ambiance of the game. During this stage, we obtained all of the sound and music that we would use for the cutscenes and prepared the videos for blueprinting in Unreal. Our chief compositor, Morgan, put all of our cutscenes into After Effects to finalize them with backgrounds.
So the real-time rendering backgrounds were made in Unreal Engine along with the game itself to help merge the 2D and 3D art styles. I tried to keep the lighting consistent throughout each shot by having the intensity and exposure controlled by post-process volume boxes.
I will be speaking for Morgan. So Morgan did compositing in Adobe After Effects, and they added visual effects and lighting to give the animation the final polish that it needed.
So we are now open for questions.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I work at Redpoint. I don't know if I've met any of you yet, but did we miss the storyboard bit or the animation? Was that in the beginning? I may have missed that, the animation bit.
Like showcasing the animations?
Yeah, like that whole
Yeah,
storyboard
they were
bit.
really quickly shown in the trailer at the start.
Okay, because I feel like I missed it, and
Yeah.
then we got to it, and I was like, wait, did we see that? So I
Yeah, no,
apologize if that
sorry.
happened. Yeah.
I was gonna say, for our gameplay segment, we'll have the animations playing while you can play the game, so you can see the full animations, because
Okay.
we agree it was cut a little short for the trailer.
Okay. And then for one of the questions that I had is, as you guys were talking about having it be a sci-fi basement, I just felt like there was still a disconnect between the sci-fi basement versus the, I guess the interior of the house itself, like maybe clues of like what were your grandparents doing, maybe throughout the house, because I didn't see any of that, and it just felt like I was seeing a new game, like a different thing, and maybe that's the unease that you're trying to do, but I missed that connection.
Yeah, for the RTR animations, we really have them as cutscenes in the game, so you're meant to find VHS tapes throughout the house, so you're meant to uncover the lore and figure out that your grandparents have been running this secret lab where they're experimenting on people because the grandma has a disease, and yes, the RTRs were cut short, so you didn't really get to catch this in the trailer, but the grandma is sick, so basically what she does is she starts experimenting on people to get more plasma, because that's what her disease revolves around. And the animations go more into that. You learn more about it through the VHS tapes. You're meant to find them throughout gameplay, and it's meant to uncover as you play the game, so.
Okay, that's all I have.
Hi, I'm Joey. Nice to meet you all. So I have a couple of points of feedback and then some questions. So Lauren kind of touched on it where we see kind of everything at the beginning, and it's really difficult with story-based games to, you guys as the writers, creators, to kind of get all of your points across. And there's also the element where like you don't want to spoil your own endings and these kind of things that matter, and you don't want to ruin that impact. One thing with these presentations, though, that I would love to see is like the blueprinting slide, for example. I would love to see like segments of like you actually showcasing those animations, or like the monster going into its different kinds of phases, right? With the storyboarding, I'd love to see some of those VHS tapes playing on repeat, so that way it kind of like echoes the points that you're making here on stage. So that way we as the audience can kind of get a feel for like, oh yeah, that thing does really communicate, you know, what you're going for. Because it's kind of hard to rewind our brains to the back of the conversation and go through all these different parts, because you all know you worked a long time on this. There's a lot in this process. I love that you took the time to blend some of your environments into your cutscenes from Blender to 2D. I think that really does kind of bridge the gap. Maybe a bit more post-processing would help though, because there was like a really big stylistic difference between.
Yes.
And I know that like one's a 2D medium and one's a 3D medium, so it's hard to do that blending. But I think maybe a bit more emphasis, and two, kind of with the disconnect of the basement to the upstairs, some post-processing might bring some cohesion to that. But yeah, overall, really awesome. Can't wait to play it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, those are good points. We'll definitely take that into consideration.
I would say on that point, you could consider having some camera movement right before the 2D animation plays to show that it is that same location, to sell it a little bit better. Because if you have a lot of the 2D animation covering the screen, players might not even realize it's the same location that they're in.
Yeah, okay, heard.
I'm really curious about the choice to play as a child. Was there any specific inspiration behind that choice rather than playing as like a young adult?
So you actually don't play as a child. I guess that can be like confusing because I say grandchild. You just play as the grandchild of the grandparents. They're in their mid-adult life at this point because in our first iterations we were going to have them be a real estate investor, but we kind of stepped away from that to focus on the lore of the actual game and the animations and such. But yeah, it would have been weird if we chose to have a child as the main character of a horror game with evil grandparents, so yeah. Okay, thank you guys.
Cafe Mayhem. Good job. Good job. Good job. Yeah. Good job. Or not. Good job.
Yeah, no, it hurt.
Is there supposed to be, I noticed that there was a difference between those two areas, but also like, but also I felt like I didn't want to be like, oh, you should have movie needles in the cell in like the lab, but also I felt like we should still yeah, something kind of tied them together because it felt like two kind of massive. So just like I'm happy you brought that up. Yeah, because it's been I've been burnt out this semester and it's finally like it's go time.
Welcome to Cafe Mayhem, where you will play as Tiny Mayhem. You have been tasked by your previous master to be the most chaotic creature in the whole town. Complete his achievements to be your most chaotic self. Explore this open world game within the town and city. And do what cats do best, make a mess. And in doing so, you will collect Master Mayhem's Polaroids. Watch out, you may be caught amongst the chaos. Coming soon, Cafe Mayhem, where chaos reigns.
Hi, I am Ray Lumley, and I'm the team lead, level designer, and blueprinter.
Hi, I'm Dharma Kasi. I'm the interior designer.
I'm Austin Thornton. I was the exterior level designer.
Hi, I'm Emily Henderson. I was the blueprint encoder.
Hi, I'm Rory Thornton. I was the primary NPC creator encoder.
Hi, I'm Diane Badillo, and I was in blueprinting.
My name is Maya Koblenz. I worked on level design, and I was the 2D artist.
This is Cafe Mayhem, a game we created where you play as a cat whose only goal is to cause chaos. Your job is to explore the town and city, terrorizing citizens and causing destruction as you go. Using levels made from environmental game design, I made a toon shader to give the game a cohesive color aesthetic and a cartoony feel to make sure all the assets looked similar. Here's the blueprints for the cartoon shader.
I did the interior designs for the apartment, grocery store, skate park, and gym. I started with the basic generalization of vibes mixed with the sound designer's music to create a more unique experience in each area. I also made the cat portraits you'll find around the map, and especially art gallery.
Yeah, so I worked on expanding the game to include a much larger city for the exterior. The main town also received additions like the police station and the post office. I also helped populate the city exterior with places like the art gallery, the corner store, in addition to the construction yard. Outside the city, you can also visit the Litter Lake Trail. And then moving on to character design. So I used Blender, and we modeled and rigged Mayhem through that. And starting from a prototype, we then worked on making animations for the cat. We also set up a movement system in Unreal Engine with animation blueprints, in addition to a blend space. And several unique animations were made just for Mayhem specifically.
During this project, my main job was creating the blueprints for multiple areas of the map, including the interaction system, movie theater, NPC dialogue, and the world sounds. I started with being able to pick up a simple toy ball and expanded into the inventory system with Diane's help into the achievement system you see within the game. I added interactable character sounds as the playable character, as well as the NPCs and animals throughout the game. I composed a few of the songs myself that are found within the world and the game, including the main theme song you heard in the trailer.
We decided to go with a pre-made modular character creation kit from It Happy on the Fab Store to create multiple unique NPCs. We have several NPCs who dance, go on patrol, and we have the one NPC who catches Mayhem in the Cat Cafe and returns her to the start of the level, as well as the farmer's market NPCs reacting in frustration to Mayhem knocking over their wares.
I worked on the achievement system to better fit our game's needs and looks. I also built the data table for all of our game achievements, including collectibles, reaching locations, and opening doors that are all triggered when a player collides with our boxes, and future versions will integrate our pickup system with our achievement system.
As the player runs through the town, wreaking havoc and completing achievements, they're also able to collect unique Polaroids corresponding to each task they complete. There are over 35 unique Polaroids filling up the player's photo album, and they were intended to be very cute, but keep the chaotic energy of the game flowing.
And that is our game. Time for questions.
Hi, I'm Branson. Hello.
Hello.
So one of the things that I feel like your game kind of pulls from is a lot of like cutesy physics-based kind of games like Goat Simulator and maybe something more akin to like Untitled Goose Game. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So just, I'll play the game eventually, but just seeing the trailer, one thing that kind of stood out to me a lot was I feel like if you look at those games, those characters have very intentionally unique kind of movements to them. I think the main character kind of felt a little stiff at times in the trailer. Of course, maybe in gameplay it's a little bit different, but I think if it's stylistic, that's fine. But I think looking into that more might really drive home what you guys are trying to do, because I mean, there's definitely a lot of content. The style is great, but making your own toon shader is crazy. So good for you. But I think that definitely working on the player animation would bring everything together a little bit more.
Some of the fun animations that we're currently in development with is having like push mechanics and having the cat pull things and swat at fish inside of a lake and try to catch like oh, you've been here for 10 minutes collecting fish, good for you. Like fun achievements like that where we have different animations already made that weren't showed in the trailer.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could help. I think that would definitely make it feel a little bit more, the character feel a little more lively.
Hi, I'm Max. I was wondering, kind of on that note, but similarly, is there any like obstacles other than those two instances? I think with the guy that like picks you up, or anything else like that in the game that might be something that stops you from achieving your objectives?
Yeah, so for the construction zone level in the city, we actually do have like a whole like parkour level. So Mayhem will have to basically ascend all the way up to the top of the construction zone, basically to retrieve a painting up there. So, you know, it just adds a little bit more of a challenge to it.
And then the other question I had is, you keep saying level. Is this a game that's like open world with like subzones, or is it like linear with, I see some nodding.
Yes, it's open world, but each area, like the dog park, the cafe, the movie theater, is its own level.
Okay.
For a way to sort the achievements nicely.
I think that could have been shown a little bit more clear in the trailer, but that's not too terrible of a thing.
Absolutely.
Hello. My name's Scott. I don't think I've met any of you, but yeah, this is really cool. Kind of the like main point of critique that I have is just regarding the user interface and just the overall visual design of all of that. Generally, it's like a good point with your trailer to kind of keep a lot of those UI elements invisible, to just kind of let the overall game speak for itself. Can be kind of distracting, but mainly just some use, just some more time refining a lot of those visual elements. I definitely noticed like top left corner of the screen, just in gameplay, that there is a lot of small text in that same kind of like hand-drawn font that you have up on the screen right there, and it does fit the style a lot. It's very hard to read at that size, so more informed choices of like how much space those elements take up, how much info you're conveying to the player just through words, and just generally what it looks like if it's readable. That can be something to consider as you kind of move forward with this, if that's something you want to do. But yeah, I really like just the overall vibe of it all. It's very nice to see.
Thank you. It's a good note. Thank you.
Hi, I just adopted 2 cats, so I am in love with this right now. If I could have achievements that change the coloration of the cats so I can play as my cats, I definitely consider that.
We have talked about that.
That is
Sweet,
something for
cool.
the future.
Glad we're on the same page there. So because you mentioned wanting to continue to work on the project, I have to chime in on this. So I work as a technical artist, which means I pay very much I have a close attention to detail for things like performance, for pipelines, workflows, things that can save you time. I noticed that when you were showing your gameplay trailer, there were a lot of dropped frames, and you mentioned yourself writing a post-process tune shader. You mentioned doing a lot of your own modeling and a lot of your own rigging. Please take the time to do a performance pass on this, because I can tell you right now, with a large open world, you're going to want to adopt tech like culling. You're going to want to do some LODs on some of your environment meshes. I'm sure you're paying the cost on the computer with some of those trees. I'm guessing you guys booted up the level and went, oh crap, why is my computer crying? Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, there's some
So
of the
take some
plans.
time, do some research into like how I can start saving on performance. Look at those metrics. We talk about AI here and there. It's a good tool as a search engine to get familiar with a lot of the tech and processes. That's a good use for it, and I'd recommend putting some time in there, because I doubt you have a dedicated engineer doing that. So only point of feedback I can really give.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Grayson's group a while back. Yeah, I'm talking about yours. My Town. What was it? Our Town? Our Town. Amazing. They presented that, and like I know me, and I were sitting here, and we're like, oh crap, this is great. Grayson, was it for Capstone? Was that your game? Interactive game design. Yeah. Is that game? No, it's interactive game project. Yeah, we don't know. Game project. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, they're interactive game design that brought it all the way to like eventually they're still working on it. They made a studio. Like getting Kickstarter. Yes, yes, that all stems from the
Hello. My name is Madeline Galloway. I am the team lead. So our game is called Monsteria. It has a main hub where the character known as the Apprentice starts out. From there, the player travels to two main levels, the meadow and the cave. In these levels, they will battle enemies collecting ingredients for brewing, pick up pre-made potions for fighting, and defeat bosses before returning to the hub.
Hello, I'm Luke Mangieri. I worked on the blueprinting for the main menu, the pause menu, and the options menu.
I'm Cole Browning. I worked on the UI design as well as the character design. For the UI, we decided to go with some examples that we found online that best fit the aesthetic of our game.
I'm Aaron McComas. I worked on the level designs. So for the hub, we wanted a hub and spoke design. So you start in the middle, and then it branches out to different paths to get to the different levels. The meadow is a long, winding path through like a foresty kind of meadow. There's some dead ends for players to collect extra loot in. And then the cave is just suffocating and always heading downwards, and you fall along a river towards the boss arena.
I'm Luke McComas, and I also worked on level design. The intention for the finished levels was to give off a feeling of a world that was reclaimed by nature. There used to be people living here, and now it's just the apprentice and their teacher. Dotted around in each level, you can find the remains of that old civilization, like abandoned ruins, tools, and statues. The forest is where they lived, the cave is where they gathered resources, and the hub was meant to be the crossroads between those places.
So for The Apprentice, we went through a bunch of different ideas, and we decided to go with something a little more simple and eye-catching. He's equipped with a utility belt that has 2 potions, as well as a bandana and a cauldron back piece.
So for the character blueprinting, we originally used the WASD-based gameplay, but after some review, we switched to using a controller. With this, I coded the sprint and jump mechanics and adjusted the camera so we could clearly get a 360 view of our character. For both the apprentice and the enemies, I set up a health and damage system, and then the apprentice can respawn in the level that they died in, but we'll have to restart the whole level. And then I also coded a patrol, chase player, attack player mechanic for the enemies that activates once the apprentice is in view. And then the last thing that I did was the occlusion masking, so we can always have eyes on the apprentice.
I'm Logan Marachka. I worked mostly on blueprinting. I did the inventory and crafting system, or the cauldron as it's called in the game. The inventory is where collected items are stored, and the player can use it to view item information, equip throwable potions, and drink consumable potions. The cauldron is where items are used to brew potions based on the recipe, which are then added to the inventory. I was also in charge of blueprinting the items themselves, both potions and ingredients. For potions, I granted the ability to throw them to deal damage to enemies, or consume them to restore health or grant temporary stat boosts. For both, I implemented a simple pickup system that adds items to the inventory when the player goes near them. And I also utilize data tables so the game can easily access item information, including the name, category, and recipe.
So future feelings for the game, we want more story, we want dialogue, we want NPCs that give the player quests to potentially unlock new areas or new recipes for potions, cutscenes, and then mostly progression-based level unlocking, where currently you can just go to any level you want, but we wanted to follow a narrative and lead you from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 and so on. So.
Thank you.
I think one of my main feedback critiques is I didn't really quite understand why you're fighting these enemies. I didn't get that from the trailer. Is there a reason why we have enemies that the guy has to fight?
So we actually have like this entire story base that we wanted to go off of, but because of the crunch of time, halfway through the semester, we actually had to redo everything from scratch. So because of that, we had to cut down on like what we could imply into this. Like if we had extra time, we would change the enemies and like make it more story based. But as of right now, this is what we have.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe take a look at like, is there a reason for these enemies? If you want to go more story based, then maybe just try to be story based and just exploring the world. And he's an apprentice and he wants to become the best potion maker. You could just totally do that and it not be a monster-based game. But the other thing that I did notice was in your trailer you had them fight through it says fight through the darkness of the cave, and I didn't see any darkness. Like it was very lit. So maybe that's just with post-process in the actual level design where it's actually dark and he has to have a light potion or an orb that follows him.
We had a lot of different potion mechanics planned, but because we had to pull back on scope as we restructured our team and reassigned roles and all that kind of stuff, light potion was actually something we had planned. We had like a water level planned where you would have to go into water and like make underwater breathing potions, all that kind of stuff, but that was just unfortunately cut due to scope. With more time, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sounds like you guys have a really good base, and I would definitely continue to iterate and make if you guys want to continue.
Thank
you.
On the topic of scope and cutting things, my advice for that in general is to look at the stuff that you want to add and see if there's an easier way to kind of get something similar. So like adding story, maybe you can't get a system in for dialogue and cutscenes, but you can always throw up a text box or a picture or even just a sign inside of the level itself that can just explain away some stuff, or even just some environmental storytelling here and there. So stuff like that can be kind of danced around in a way that you could just kind of still get the same point across if you can. The other little bits of advice I had were regarding presentation. In the trailer, you had 2 different loading screens. I'd recommend trying to cut those out or cut around them, unless you have a loading screen that can hide the loading, very nicely. And then the other thing is, I noticed there was some default fonts, I think. I recommend trying to find something more in tune with your atmosphere, like you did in the presentation here. I saw you had a nice font that I think fits the game well. If you could get that into the game, I think it could go a long way. Because when you see that, you think it's a default and it kind of takes you out. But like, if that's the only thing taking you out of the experience, that can, help it out a lot.
I think something that kind of caught me off guard when watching this is, I don't play a lot of games of this like type of gameplay style, but I feel like if you guys mess with the camera a little bit, you could get some more dynamic kind of feel from the game. Do you currently have any cutscenes in the game, or I think it was a future thing, right? You were planning on adding cutscenes?
Yeah, we're planning on it.
Okay. And are those using a dynamic camera that actually like shows the player or like close up, or is it going to be that top-down style for those as well?
I'd imagine a combination of both. Nothing strictly set in stone yet, but.
Because I really enjoy the character designs that you guys created, and I think that you need to have more opportunities for them to really shine with other points of view. I think that, because I think it's cute and like fun, but I think that if you get a little more focused on it, you could make something that's even more, has a lot more character. I really liked the design of that main character like a lot. We all went like, "Aw."
Thank you.
So I like that a lot. But yeah, maybe just focusing more on it and giving it more opportunity to shine would help you guys a little bit with the characterizing that.
Hi, I just have a quick question. You were talking about if, or just like things that you cut to scope. Was there sound in the game?
Yes, there's sound in the game.
Okay, I just didn't see if anyone mentioned that at all. All right, that's all.
A question, if you would. A kingdom rises in heavenly light, vast in a blinding radiance. But the fires of divinity were to burn through the streets, blotting out the golden sands in a quilt of black tide. Is this where the parable began? Or was it when those nameless kings tasked their creation to etch their fate into the annals of time? The puppet took sand in hand and casted their wish in glass, a boiling moment now frozen in time. Those crowned fools would scratch at the prison walls, trading their light away for a sip of flowing time in the desert, while those without grace would feed on their captor's slaughter, offering their grains as tribute. I ask you, when did the story end? When the victors lay their blades, or when the writer lays their pen? We will etch the final engrave of this world's fated ruination.
Hi, I'm Cameron Willis. I was the leader of real-time rendering. I also handled compositing for that. And on the game project side, I was in charge of coding. And starting off with real-time rendering, our team has gone to great lengths to ensure our animation falls into a style that fits into Falling Sands. With our objective set for an opening cutscene, we began the process of concepting and came up with the idea of a puppet show.
For my portion of work, I worked on the storyboard and concept art, some of the lighting, and set up the carts in each scene as well. We wanted a castle mood board so that we could draw inspiration from them while creating the scenes. I did some of the lighting as well as the lightning effects in 2 of the scenes.
My name is Dominic. I was an animator, and as an animator on the cinematic, I was tasked with bringing our mannequin friends to life. To achieve this, I decided to animate our mannequins in Autodesk Maya and then export them individually to Unreal Engine. Doing it this way allowed us to have more control over them, both in refining their movements and adjusting the timing so that everything flowed smoothly. I also worked on the effects for our sandstorm by editing together a series of noise textures and piecing them together with Unreal's material graph to give the sandstorm its natural look.
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm an animator and a modeler. And what I did was I created the cart, the curtains, and the textures for both of them. For the curtain, we all wanted a light red look and decided to go for a medieval style cart. And so we gave it a nice golden stage and with a wooden handle for it. And I also worked on the curtain animations for each of the scenes, and as well as the mannequin animations for certain scenes.
With all of these elements brought together, I went into the Unreal file and actually built the level sequence. From there, I got a bunch of shots, ensured that all the animations played smoothly before I took it over into After Effects, where through compositing, I added in the music, which was done by Anna, along with the vocals done by Tony, and the other sound effects we used for the actual animation. And from there, we can jump into game project.
Hi, I'm Isa. I was the co-lead and also the concept lead. So aside from task scheduling and delegation, we began with solidifying the visual and narrative concepts, which are our fantasy and desert themes, as well as thinking of the core mechanics, such as the timekeeping hourglass and our combat system. We decided on building our game in voxel style, which allowed us a greater ease in making all of our assets custom made.
Hi, my name is Jonah, and I did level design and blueprinting. The castle is designed as a playground for the players to traverse. Traversal was a focal point using staircases, watchtowers, and holes in the floors for platforming. The hourglass is easily accessible from all floors, being at the central point of the castle. Each room is designed, and each floor is designed to be visually distinct so players can gain familiarity with the castle layout on multiple playthroughs.
All right, and from there, I turned the level design into 3D. I'm Grace McCormack. I was the environmental lead. I was able to use the Blockout Tools plugin by Dmitry Karpukin that I learned during my time interning for Pipeworks this past summer. From that blockout, I was able to create modular assets following the visual aesthetic that Isa set using Magic of Voxel. And then from there, we had an entire castle from scratch, so it was just about decorating.
Hi, I'm Victoria Farrell. I was in the environmental team and focused on asset creation. When it came to the creation of our assets, we stuck to a single limited palette in Magic of Voxel to help keep the assets cohesive. We used the detailed design document as a guide for the assets needed and the 16 by 16 by 16 characters for scale. The style was kept deliberately simple with limited shading, using it only to imply texture sparingly, and our asset creation was guided by referencing furniture in Western European medieval castles.
Hi, my name's Ty Morris. I did level detailing. I used Jonah's level plan to follow out and fill out each of the floors with props. Each of the rooms were detailed and attempt to tell the last holdout of Castle Graybill's downfall via environmental storytelling.
Hello, my name is Stone McNeil. I was the other project lead and the character designer and UI programmer. For character design, I wanted to use a voxel animation plugin from Wild Ox Studios. This allowed us to use data animation assets for our characters' animations, which would use static meshes as keyframes similar to 2D animations you would see in 2D games.
Because our characters don't have any bones, we used spawn and attach actor nodes with snap to target rules so the weapons stayed in their hand during animations. There is a parent class which handles all player logic except for the attacks, which are handled on functions on the children.
Jumping into some blueprinting, one of the main things that our character needs to focus on is being able to add time to a timer as you are locked in a small space for about 2 minutes. For that, I had to go in and mess with it for a long time. I had to specifically go in and separate it into a different actor so that the timer would play and like show on the UI and all of that.
My name is Anna Stevenson. I was in charge of doing the gameplay sound as well as particle systems. So the sound was actually a pretty intensive process, more so than it would be because of the plugin that we used. I was in charge of sourcing the sounds, processing them, and then implementing them. All sound effects were Creative Commons 0 from freesound.org and opengamer.org. And then also starting to experiment with particle systems with using the Voxel plugin. So thank you. Time for Q&A.
How's it going? Oh, there we go. My name is Grayson. So with a lot of the game looking like it kind of revolves around combat, I didn't really see much in the trailer. I saw like walking back and forth and the health bar was going down. Could someone explain more what the combat looks like?
Yeah, so combat is essentially you choose a character. We have 5 characters to select from. Each character has a different ability. We actually display it very well here. We had to get gameplay footage kind of last minute, but you choose a character with a set amount of weapons and sort of gameplay styles. You kill the enemies, which grant you sands, and then you turn in those sands to our little guy on the side there. You'll see him in a bit, and that'll extend the time left up on the top left corner.
Cool. So obviously, you know, we're watching this on a projector, it's just a trailer, blah, blah, blah. Something that I kind of noticed is I love the style of your game. As a fellow person who forced myself to make a game in a specific art style, I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing here. It's beautiful. But one thing I think that's kind of mismatched is the lighting feels a little bit too harsh or too dark in a lot of areas. And I think that there's a lot of different styles that you guys could go for to kind of move it forward. Are you using any specific like post-processing with this? Anything like a toon shader or something to kind of soften some of this lighting?
We used a post-process shader, sort of like a semi-tuned shader to give each object sort of an outline, but in terms of lighting, we use essentially like a color adjuster, and that was about it.
Yeah, the black point seems a little intense. So, but I think that the lighting kind of pulls away from some of it. I'm excited to see it like on my own phone or on a monitor or something, because I think it'll kind of clean up a lot of the visuals. But I guess that would be my input, is to be purposeful with your lighting and really realize that it's the way that without that, your game is displayed in a way that might change the way you want it to look. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Kinda.
I had a quick question about the art style difference between the animation in the intro and the game. Was there a reason for the difference between the two? Because I think both of them are pretty good. I just didn't know where that came from.
When it came to the opening cutscene that Real Time made for this, we decided to, since we were on a crunch and we had to make an animation in such a short time, we were looking for models that would try and fit better with the style of the actual game, Falling Sands. Though, sadly, we weren't really able to find anything that was usable. So we came up with a kind of a workaround where we added a post-process to the actual animation to make everything a little bit more bitty, kind of crushed, so that it would be a closer style to what the actual game was. So we tried our best to merge them as best as possible.
Yeah, so this game, we wanted to go for like that sort of arcadey look, and with a lot of arcade games, they would have a pre-rendered cutscene that looks sort of different from the game itself, and that's what we were kind of going for with that.
All right. I would say, like, I would personally consider mixing both art styles, because I think that could come up with something pretty unique and like crazy looking that might be pretty memorable. But that's kind of outside the scope of the conversation, because that's really just a difference in opinion. But I think both look pretty good, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only feedback that I would say for that opening trailer is definitely the sound. maybe it's just because the speakers in here, I couldn't really understand at all what he was saying or what they were narrating. I would definitely go back and maybe make it less crunchy so I can understand what's being said. But that's like my main feedback for that opening trailer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was the one who did that, and I'm not a sound engineer. I essentially had to teach myself Audacity, and I agree, I kind of overdid it with the crunchiness of it. But I also wanted to give our narrator a sort of imposing, almost godly voice, and that's why I went with that.
I have a quick suggestion for that. On doing like a crazy voice like that is just lower your pitch, copy it, and then have one at a higher pitch and one at a lower pitch, and then it sounds like three people talking at the same time.
Just to give some quick points of feedback here. So I actually kind of like the stylized difference between the intro and the gameplay. Like I get why you pixelated it to kind of mimic the oncoming voxel style that you're going for. That's cool. I like the puppet kind of Elden Ring-esque storytelling to set the mood. I think that's really cool. What I'm struggling with is kind of the gameplay loop of this, right? Like, you know, we can see from the trailer, we obviously have different classes, and you kind of have sort of roguelite-y elements to it. But beyond just kind of playing every class maybe once or twice, I'm struggling to feel where the scalability is to keep people coming back, right? And that's kind of the biggest things with this genre of games is there has to be some element of not only like an account style progression where you're like unlocking a weapon or unlocking a skill set or something like that, but maybe something else to discover. Like, are there discoverable things to the story that aren't just put out into the open or communicated through the trailer? Like, can I uncover a story like in the environment, like in a secret room by doing something? I think those kind of elements would help this game feel like there's more to the player with each run.
Oh yeah, and in future expeditions, we would like to sort of explore our options with it. I was thinking like a roguelike where you could collect items, but just due to the arcade style of this game, we wanted to get the game loop down first and foremost, and we could worry about stuff like roguelikes in future developments.
Oh yeah, completely agree. And I'm not trying to paint you into any kind
Oh
of
no,
style.
that's I didn't. Sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
you're
phrase
good.
it like that.
Having done these classes, I get what it's like to be under that crunch. But more what I'm saying is when you put yourself into this kind of style of game, those expectations are gonna occur, right? So you have to design around that and say like, even though this is our future plan, this is the path we're going
To quickly touch on the gameplay loop of the actual game currently. Oh, we're out of time.
You tell me later.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, my name's Mackenzie Franks. I was the animator, project lead, and art director. So our animation was about a mother watching her daughter graduate, and through that she has flashbacks to some moments of her daughter's life that led to where she was today, really focusing on memories that we usually take for granted in that time. We wanted to focus on the emotional weight of parent and childhood relationships while using an animation style that was more storybook-like to help capture the memory and sentiment of how fast childhood moves. We tried to make our viewers see how we should be reflecting on how important it is to be present in all the small moments. We really wanted to mimic how fast childhood goes by quick blinks, really working with color and lighting to shift the tone, and using the final blink to finalize the theme of it being how quickly childhood goes.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Williams. I worked on backgrounds and animation. For this, we decided to go for a 2D hand-drawn animation with soft watercolor inspired aesthetic. In terms of colors, we try to be symbolic with our use of colors. We use blue to represent the mother, representing nostalgia, emotional stillness. For the daughter, we use the pink color palette, where gradually the pink gets darker in its shade to signify the, growth, independence, and emotional distance. In terms of tools, we use Kitsu to track our animation passes, P4V to prevent loss of assets, and Google Drive for quick access to reference files, and allowed us to do on-the-go review and updates. And finally, we use Premiere for the final edit sound, and Odyssey for assembly.
I'm Jackson Stutler. I did animation and sound. We used Odyssey Unreal Engine plugin to do our 2D animation within Unreal. We used this for color quality and consistency for each of our sequences for all our different passes, and it also helped support our final polish and effects that we wanted to do. And for our development, we went through tons and tons of different storyboarding, and especially multiple revisions on what we wanted to bring forth for those childhood moments that we really thought were key for us as developers. And for our research, we did tons for studying emotional storytelling techniques, a lot of coloring and framing, especially for emotional tone, and the key moments as a child and for the parents. And for our final impact, we wanted to give you guys the value the fleeting moments of connection, because these moments won't last forever. And now we'll open it up for questions.
First and foremost, wow, that was fantastic. I definitely got it right when like the music changed. It was like, oh, we're going through this. Let's go on this journey. One really cool thing that you mentioned in the storyboards was the color change. I definitely noticed as she got older that the color was getting more mature, but yet we're still following the child growing up. So definitely got that, and it just proves that you guys know what you're doing. I really don't have any critique. It's just really good. I really liked it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, everything Lauren said is so true. You can really feel the impact of this. In like the beginning, I heard the music and I looked down at the sheet and I read it in the blink of an eye, and it all pieced together. It was perfect. It was really good. I really liked too that you showed the slide on how you work together with like Perforce and file sharing and stuff. That's something that isn't talked about enough and is so important. So hats off to you guys for practicing what is the correct way to do that. But I do have a pipeline question, and I know that you made a slide about why you use this plugin for Unreal. But sitting here, like Unreal really isn't a 2D enhancer. It's really a 3D enhancer. And sure, plugins bring in, control and stuff like that. But I almost feel like you could have gotten the same control and just cut out that middleman and gotten all of that in your After Effects pipeline or inside of your Adobe. Is there something in that plugin that heightened the end result, in your opinion? Or was it just, we know this plugin exists, we want to try it out?
That's basically what it was, is like, so real-time rendering, we wanted to use Unreal, and we all really enjoy doing 2D animation. We're like, let's give it another try. This is a thing, so that's why we threw it into there. And at the end, just to get like small, tiny other effects that I couldn't get with using the plugin, I put it into After Effects to get like that golden hue that I made myself. So I just wanted to, we used a lot of Odyssey, but it wasn't for, I guess, super big After Effects, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I totally understand using a project to learn about a tool. So yeah, really awesome job.
I like the art style a lot on this one. I just, was there any specific inspirations you had for it? I know you mentioned like the, like children's books and stuff like that, but like, I really liked the way that you animated some really weird forced perspective in some scenes in a way that like, I think some people might not realize is kind of intentional. I was wondering if you had any like examples or any other things that inspired that.
I think it was just more like real life. Like the scene when she's sitting at her computer just reminded me of me walking in and watching my daughter sit at my computer and play at it. So really just real life.
All right, and then my other thing is one piece of feedback, and it's kind of minor, is at the beginning and end when we switch to the mother's perspective, it shows her blinking, but then also has it blinking in first person. I think it might be a little bit more impactful and like easier to make the transition if she was looking into like a mirror or something, so we could see the perspective shift.
So everybody's, very positive, and I'm also very positive about it, but I don't want to repeat what everybody said. It's very cool, amazing what you guys have created. There were a couple things that kind of stood out for me and kind of broke me out of my immersion with it. One of the things I saw was during the science fair, I assume it's like a science fair-esque, the volcano scene, yeah. I feel like the person who's watching the daughter, which I assume is the teacher, yes, has a bit of wobbly animation to her. I think that the posing on the daughter is so intentional, and it like, obviously your eye's gonna be drawn to that, so it's more important. But I feel like that was like the only time where I saw something that kind of like drew my eye away from the way that you guys were animating everything. It was a little, I think she was supposed to be standing in place and kind of like move left, move right, just to imply that there was some movement, but it felt a little jarring to kind of see that, considering the quality of a lot of the other animation throughout the scene.
It was mentioned earlier, but the forced perspective really was a challenge for me in that part. And a lot of my focus went towards the daughter, and that's mainly why that scene turned out the way it did.
As it should. I mean, because what you did with the daughter there is very good. It was very, very good. There was one that was like different, right? Yeah. One with like flatter colors.
Yeah. So that's context. Odyssey was 1,200 a seat. It's a French product software, and it just became free on Epic Games Store in July of this year. And that's where I was like in class, like one of the early weeks. I was like, "Holy shit, guys, this is free!" Yeah. So if you want to dig into this, go for it. And I never heard it. Yeah. I was just like 2D into Unreal. No, it has a storyboarding tool as well. It's amazing. It's a fully.
My name is Ian Rosillo. I was director, and I did a lot of the technical aspects.
My name is Carly Butler, and I worked on lighting and animation.
My name is Emily Holub, and I was the sound lead and editor.
Hi, I'm Peyton Martin, and I helped with writing, voice acting, and animation.
My name is Jacob Tansky. I was one of the animators and the VFX artist. And this is Archer.
Seems a new outlaw in town. Calls himself Cal.
That's so.
Yep, he ain't got killer in his eyes, but he's making a scene.
Why can't you take care of him then? You're capable.
You're the sheriff, ain't you?
Yeah, what of it? I ain't the shut I used to be, you know that. Do I have to spell it out for you? I'm finished. All I'm good for is getting folks killed. I ain't no hero.
Sheriff, look out!
So that's it. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit.
Pardon?
You heard me. Folks die. Some died doing what's right. The deputy died saving you, Archer. And now you want to throw it all away? For what? Think of all the people you saved over the years. You saved me, Arch. You ever thought of that? He would want you to keep fighting. Keep saving people. He would want you to honor his sacrifice. Are you even listening to me? You can't just sit and rock with all
Enough! I got him killed. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was negligence. If I wasn't busy watching my own back, maybe he'd still be alive. I can't do nothing about it now. That's life.
You're right, Arch. People will die no matter what. But I know one thing. More folks will die if you do nothing. That ain't what he died for.
The town needs someone.
So, what are you gonna do about it, Sheriff?
For this project, we made a story centering a man versus self narrative based off of what assets were available to us, as I had an environment pack for an old western desert town off the Fab Marketplace. The original outline we created was meant to have 3 different flashbacks, and in the final script, we went with one major flashback for sake of clarity. And the storyboarding phase was useful for shot composition, camera angles, and camera movements, which helped us stay on the same artistic page.
And we did a couple concept sketches of the sheriff's office before settling on the design. We built the main set using Western Fab asset packs to fit the scale of the pre-built office and exterior.
For facial animation, we used LiveLink. The rig that we bought came with over 50 blend shapes, so after building a blueprint, we could capture lip sync to the audio that we already had and place it into its own animation sequence. Once captured, I could manipulate the graph editors to push expressions and simplify redundant keys for performance. This way, we could drag in the facial animation into each shot over top the body animation so that 2 people could work on one shot at the same time.
We approached animation passes differently this time, utilizing Unreal Engine Sequencer for optimization. Each member was tasked to create 3 passes with a 4th pass dedicated to post-production. And during the 4th pass, we reviewed every sequence, polishing animation, adjusting keyframe placement, and reanimating shots when needed to fix timing and consistency. And we strived for a consistent and unified art style.
When it came to the visual effects, we wanted something minimal that would complement the animation well. The slowly winding smoke from the cigar draws attention without diverting the viewer from the actions taking place, and it helps to convey the depressive state that Archer is in. VFX are meant to be flashy, but they can overshadow the message being delivered if they're overused. That's why in the shootout we used the necessary amount of effects to enhance the actions, but not enough to distract the viewers from the significance of the flashback.
And as we knew we wanted to put a heavy focus on character and dialogue, we rented a recording and editing suite and captured the voice acting over 2 sessions using Pro Tools. And we did final mixing and edits in Adobe Premiere Pro. And now we'll open it up for questions.
Something that you just mentioned, which actually just sparked a question, was the depressive state of Archer. You know, as you're seeing like the world, he's drinking, he's whatever. One of the things that I would probably change with or adjust in the real-time edit is the lighting in the room. That can also just add that extra, like, he's sad, like he's actually like really regretting what had happened to his partner, I'm guessing, in the line of action. And then one of the other things is we were saying that, well, it seemed a little long for that initial whole him going through it. I wonder if there was some story beats where you could have cut back a little bit, because I started to lose track of what we were talking about or what the two characters were talking about. Those are the things that I would add or adjust a little. Oh, and also I did notice that some of the camera focus was off. I don't know if that was if you had it manually tracked or if you had it tracked to the character. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, we did do, I think most of the focus was manual, if not all of it. And this is my first time also like doing something like this in Unreal, so getting the focus to look the way we wanted it to was a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So we just kind of had to like find a medium that worked.
It was one of those things where everything was right where we wanted it. Everything was lined up perfectly. We hit the submit button, we watch it back, we're like, ah, man.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but yeah, that's what my feedback would be.
Cool. First of all, love the outfit coordination for the Cowboys. Very fun. And I want to say I just like the narrative overall. I think it's a lot of fun. I felt like the sound effects, like the shaking gun. I feel like that was like really cool, like consistent theme. But one thing that kind of took me out of it was the gunfight. I feel like seeing, like, I don't know, the whole animation felt like pretty like grounded in reality, and then seeing like the bullet fly through the air kind of took me out of it. It was like, okay, this feels like an animation again. So I think just if you're gonna lean into the reality of it, try to replicate what like a real gun is like. It's like just a flash, you don't see anything, and then it's just done. But when I see like a glow fly through, it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. And I don't know, I just think just fixing that would really help keep me in it.
Grayson brought up a good point about the audio. I think your guys' Foley work is really, really good. And I think continuing with that is a good idea. I did notice in the first, maybe third, that some of the Foley work was kind of missing. So when the characters get up or sit down, there's no clothing sounds, there's no like creaking or anything. But then when, the gun obviously makes a sound, the cigar made a sound, like, I think that it was a little immersion breaking for some things that have really good Foley art, really good sound effects, and then some things to be mute. So I think if you're going to add, it's a really easy way to add some more depth to everything, is do one more pass with the audio and have some consistency. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I think I did try to add all like the Foley and sound effects to the beginning. I think if I were to go back to it, I would definitely mix it. I think some of it might have been a little too quiet to hear. So yeah, like maybe it didn't come through over the music or something else like that. But definitely going forward, like if to take another pass, I would like to remix it, especially.
Yeah, just to get a quick point in, the technical side of this was awesome. I love the self-inserts on the wanted photos, by the way. I noticed that. That's great. Yeah, doing the technical stuff that you guys did is really impressive, really awesome, really ambitious too. And I think Grayson brought it up with like the gunfight and kind of like losing some of that like immersion. You can do a lot of visual storytelling with very little. You could have communicated the partner being dead with just him being dead on the ground, and the pan over and the panic facial expression on the character's face. When you try to go for big like elements and stuff like that, like big actions like jumping in front of a bullet, you have to polish that very, very well to the quality bar of a mocap essentially, because you're mocapping your face. So already we're tuned into that high level of detail. So there's just a lot more polish. Try maybe simplifying your storytelling. It might help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take 5 minutes and then come back for Games for Impact. Okay, 4 minutes.
Turn that off.
I'm going to take a potty.
Turn that off. Turn that off.
Go, yeah, out and to the right. What do you want? These? Yep.
I'll reclaim. Where's the other mic?
I don't know where the other one is.
I will reclaim for now.